She torched my engagement for attention. I brought her Ethan to the party, and her empire of lies collapsed overnight. There is a specific kind of pain that comes from watching your life fall apart while everyone blames you. And there is a specific kind of anger that comes from knowing the truth but having no way to prove it. Until you do. My name is Natalie Brooks, and my sister Vanessa destroyed my engagement. Not for love, not out of jealousy, but because she couldn't stand not being the center of attention. The scent of gardenias always takes me back to that day. 2 weeks before the wedding, at the boutique in Manhattan where I was having my final dress fitting. My mother was there, Sophie, my best friend, and Vanessa, of course. Always Vanessa. The dress was perfect. French lace, long train, exactly as I had dreamed. I was twirling in front of the triple mirror, smiling, happy, when Vanessa collapsed. Not literally, but dramatically. Hands on her chest, gasping for breath, eyes wide with panic. "I can't breathe," she gasped. "Oh my God, I can't breathe." And just like that, my moment turned into her drama. Ambulance called, everyone rushing, my dress forgotten as my mother held Vanessa's hand, whispering, "It's okay, darling, it's okay." At the hospital, after all the tests, the doctor said, "Panic attack, probably stress-related. She's fine now." But the damage was done. My dress-fitting day, my moment, had become about Vanessa again. I should have seen the pattern. I should have recognized that every time I had something good, Vanessa found a way to make it about her. But you don't see patterns when you're inside them. You only see when you finally get out. Michael, my fiancé, was understanding. Of course he was. Michael was always understanding. Kind, patient, everything I wanted in a partner. "Your sister is going through a lot," he said when I complained later. "You need to be more sensitive, Nat." Going through a lot. That was always the excuse. Vanessa was always going through a lot. Work stress, relationship problems, anxiety, depression, an endless list of crises that demanded constant attention. What I didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that half of these crises were fabricated, and the other half were self-inflicted to get attention. A week before the wedding, Vanessa called me. Her voice was strange, hesitant. "Nat, I need to tell you something about Michael." My stomach dropped. What about Michael? "I didn't want to tell you, but it would be wrong not to. As your sister, I have to be honest." Dramatic pause. "I overheard him talking to a friend about having doubts, about not being sure if he's ready to get married." "That's not true," I replied automatically. "Michael doesn't have doubts." "I know it's hard to hear," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with fake compassion. "But I heard it, Nat, with my own ears. He said you're pushing too hard, that he feels like he has no choice." "You're lying." The words came out before I could stop them. "Why would I lie?" Vanessa sounded hurt. "Nat, I'm trying to protect you. I know it's your wedding week, but you deserve to know the truth." I hung up, hands trembling, heart racing, because some part of me, some small, insecure part, wondered, what if it was true? I confronted Michael that night. "Do you have doubts about us, about the wedding?" "What? Natalie, where did that come from?" "Vanessa said she overheard you talking to a friend, saying you're not sure." Michael turned pale. "I never said that. Nat, I have no doubts. None. I love you. I want to marry you." "Then why would Vanessa say that?" "I don't know, but there was something in his eyes. Doubt. Not about me, about the situation. But Natalie, your sister has been strange. She called me a few times, saying she needed to talk to me about you, that she was worried." "Worried about what?" "She didn't say specifically, just that you were stressed, that maybe we were getting married too fast, that she just wanted to make sure I really loved you." Manipulators don't destroy relationships with one big lie. They use small lies, seeds of doubt, carefully planted over time until trust is corroded from within. The argument escalated. Not because we were fighting each other, but because we were fighting against the doubt Vanessa had planted. And doubt, once planted, is hard to uproot. Maybe we should postpone, Michael said finally, just for a few months, until things calm down. Postpone? I repeated, incredulously. Michael, the wedding is in 6 days. I know, but Natalie, maybe your sister is right. Maybe we are rushing things. We've been together for 3 years. I know, but I need time to think, to be sure. He left that night and didn't come back. 3 days later, Michael officially broke up with me, over the phone, like a coward. I'm so sorry, Natalie, but I can't do this. I can't get married when I have doubts. You didn't have doubts until Vanessa put them in your head. Maybe she just made me see what was already there, he said. I'm so sorry. I really am. The wedding was canceled, deposits lost, guests informed. My gardenia dress hung in the closet, a constant reminder of everything I had lost. And Vanessa? Vanessa was there to support me. Hugs, tears, hers, not mine. I was too numb to cry. Words of comfort about how, if it was meant to be, it would be, you deserve someone better. My family blamed Michael. What a coward, my mother said, to leave you like that. But I knew the truth. Michael wasn't a coward. He was manipulated, and I couldn't prove it. It was Sophie who planted the first seed of doubt about Vanessa. Nat, don't you think it's strange? She said, 2 weeks after the wedding cancellation. We were at my apartment in Brooklyn, surrounded by boxes of wedding decorations that I still didn't have the heart to discard. Strange what? How Vanessa always has a crisis when something good happens to you. Sophie counted on her fingers. When you got the promotion, she had that medical emergency. When you and Michael got engaged, she announced she was moving to Seattle because of her dream job. And now, the week of your wedding, she overhears Michael having doubts. Do you think she made it up? I asked, but some part of me already knew the answer. I think Vanessa has a pattern, Sophie said carefully, and I think you've been too generous in ignoring it. She's my sister. I know. But Nat, sisters don't sabotage weddings. Sisters don't invent lies to destroy relationships. And I'm starting to wonder, what else has Vanessa made up? The question stayed with me, echoing, growing, until I started to look, really look, at Vanessa's life. She claimed to work for a prestigious tech company in Seattle, but when I tried to look up her name on the company's LinkedIn, it wasn't there. When I called the number she had given as her office, it was a disconnected number. She posted photos of her luxurious apartment with a view of Puget Sound, but a reverse image search showed the photos were from an Airbnb, available for rent for $300 a night. And Ethan, the mysterious boyfriend she had met in Seattle, who was perfect, whom she talked about constantly, but whom no one in the family had met because he was always traveling for work. There were no photos of him, no social media posts, no evidence that Ethan existed beyond Vanessa's stories. Sophie, I called her, hands trembling. I think Vanessa made up everything. The job, the apartment, Ethan, everything. My God, Sophie breathed. Nat, are you sure? Not completely. But Sophie, nothing fits. Nothing is verifiable. It's all just stories. Why would she do that? Attention, I replied. Vanessa always needed to be special, to be envied. And when her real life wasn't enough, she invented a better one. Pathological liars don't lie out of necessity. They lie out of habit. Because the lie becomes more real than the truth, because they believe in their own fantasies. It was then that Vanessa made her next move. She called, excited, effusive. Nat, I have amazing news. Ethan proposed to me. We're engaged. My stomach churned. Congratulations, I managed to say. I'm having a party, engagement party. In New York, so the whole family can finally meet Ethan. You'll come, won't you? It would be so important for me to have my little sister there." And there it was. The opportunity, served on a silver platter. "Of course," I said, my mind already working. I wouldn't miss it for anything. Because if Ethan didn't exist, and I was increasingly sure he didn't, Vanessa had just made a fatal mistake. She had promised to produce an imaginary man in front of the entire family. And I was going to make sure that when she failed, her entire empire of lies crumbled with her. The party was scheduled for 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks for Vanessa to come up with an excuse as to why Ethan couldn't show up. 3 weeks for her to build another layer of lies. But I wasn't going to let that happen. "You're crazy," Sophie said when I told her my plan. We were at a bar in Williamsburg, far enough from my apartment to make sure no one from the family would overhear us. "Probably," I agreed. "But Sophie, she destroyed my wedding. She's been lying to our family for years. Someone needs to stop her." "Hiring an actor to pretend to be her fictional boyfriend?" Sophie raised an eyebrow. "Nat, that's soap opera level crazy." "I know," I smiled for the first time in weeks, "but it will work. Think about it. Vanessa promised Ethan would be there. If I show up with a guy claiming to be Ethan, she has 2 options. Admit she lied or pretend he's real. Either way, she exposes herself." "What if she admits she lied before the party?" "She won't," I said with certainty, because admitting about Ethan means admitting about everything else. The job, the apartment, the whole fake life she built. Vanessa would rather die than admit she's not special. Sophie was silent for a long moment. Then, "Okay, I'm in, but we need to do this right. We need someone who's convincing." "I already have someone in mind." I pulled out my phone, showed her a profile. Jason Reed, actor, works mostly in off-Broadway theater, needs money, and according to his profile, he's excellent at improvising. "Have you contacted him yet?" "Not yet. Wanted to make sure I wasn't completely crazy first." "You are completely crazy," Sophie said, "but I love you for it. Let's do this." Jason Reed agreed to meet us at a coffee shop in the East Village. He was exactly like his photos, generically attractive, the kind of guy who could be anyone. Perfect. "So, let me get this straight," he said after I explained the situation. "Your sister made up a boyfriend, announced an engagement to this fictional boyfriend, and you want me to show up at her engagement party pretending to be this guy?" "Exactly," I confirmed. "And the goal is?" "To expose years of lies," I said simply. "Jason, my sister destroyed my wedding. She's been lying to my family for years about her life, and no one believes me because I have no proof. But if I show up with Ethan and she can't explain why there are 2 Ethans, the lies crumble." "That's brilliant," he smiled, "and slightly vindictive. I love it. What's the pay?" $2,000, I said. It was all the money I had saved for the honeymoon, but it was worth every penny. Half now, half after the party. Deal. Jason extended his hand. "But we'll need rehearsal. I need to know everything about this fictional Ethan. How he talks, acts, what Vanessa said about him. It needs to be convincing." We spent the next 2 weeks preparing. I compiled everything Vanessa had said about Ethan over the years. He worked in finance, had studied at Columbia, was originally from Portland, liked climbing and jazz. "She was pretty specific for someone who doesn't exist," Jason commented as we reviewed the notes. "Pathological liars always are," I explained. "The more details, the more real it seems. Vanessa probably has an entire invented life for Ethan in her head." "What if she has photos," Jason asked, "of some random guy she's saying is Ethan?" "She doesn't," I said with certainty. "I checked all her social media. There's not a single photo of Ethan, because he doesn't exist." 3 days before the party, Vanessa called me. "Nat, you won't believe it. Ethan is so excited to meet the family. He was nervous, you know how shy he is, but I told him you'll love him." "I'm sure we will," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "I can't wait to finally meet him." "Are you bringing anyone?" Vanessa asked, and there was something in her voice. Hope? That I would show up alone, still destroyed by the canceled wedding? Actually, yes, I said. I met someone. Nothing serious yet, but he's nice. Thought I'd bring him. Oh, Vanessa sounded disappointed. Good for you. What's his name? You'll meet him at the party, I said, smiling despite myself. I want it to be a surprise. The night of the party arrived. The venue was a chic restaurant in the meatpacking district, paid for by my parents, of course. Vanessa never paid for anything herself. Jason met me a block away. He was impeccable in a navy blue suit, hair slicked back, looking exactly like the kind of guy who would work in finance. Ready? He asked. Born ready, I replied. Remember, you're Ethan Mitchell, work for Goldman Sachs, met Vanessa 2 years ago at a conference in Seattle. You're shy but passionate, and you're absolutely in love with her. Got it. Let's destroy an empire of lies. The restaurant was packed when we arrived. Family, Vanessa's friends, or people she claimed were friends. I wondered how many were real. Coworkers, probably not, since the job was fake. Vanessa was near the entrance, stunning in a red dress. When she saw me, her face lit up. Nat, you came! Then she saw Jason, and her expression changed. Confusion, then alarm, then pure panic. Vanessa, I said cheerfully, this is my plus one. Jason, sorry, what's your last name again? Mitchell, Jason said smoothly, his eyes fixed on Vanessa. Jason Mitchell. But my friends call me Ethan. It's a childhood nickname. A bit silly, but it stuck. Watching the blood drain from Vanessa's face was one of the most satisfying moments of my life, because, for the first time, she was speechless. Without prepared lies, just caught. Ethan, Vanessa repeated, her voice strange. Yes, what a coincidence, isn't it? I smiled sweetly. Your fiancé is also named Ethan. Where is he, by the way? I can't wait to meet him. He's, Vanessa looked around frantically. He's late. Traffic. Oh, what a shame. Well, I'm sure he'll arrive soon. In the meantime, do you mind if I grab a drink? Natalie said you have excellent taste in wine. Of course, Vanessa managed to say. The bar it's over there. As Jason walked away, Vanessa pulled me aside. What are you doing? She hissed. Bringing my plus one to your engagement party, I replied innocently. Why? Is there a problem? You know there's a problem. You brought a guy named Ethan. And, isn't it a common name? Your fiancé is also named Ethan. Pure coincidence. Natalie. Where is your Ethan, Vanessa? I asked softly. Your entire family is here, waiting to meet him. Where is he? He's coming, Vanessa insisted, but her eyes were desperate. He's just late. Sure, I smiled. I'm sure he is. The night progressed. My parents greeted me, met Jason/Ethan, seemed to like him. Family asked about Vanessa's fiancé. Where's Ethan? When will we meet him? Vanessa, is he coming? And Vanessa, growing increasingly desperate, inventing excuses. He's stuck in traffic. His flight was delayed. He's almost here, I promise. It was Sophie who delivered the final blow. She approached Vanessa with her phone. Vanessa, how strange. I was looking for your fiancé on LinkedIn to see where he works, you know. But I can't find any Ethan Mitchell who works in finance in Seattle. In fact, I can't find any Ethan who matches the description you gave. It's like he doesn't exist. Lies crumble when confronted with facts, and Vanessa had built her entire empire on lies, without foundation, without substance, just pretty stories she had told so many times that she started to believe them. The restaurant fell silent. Not completely, there was still background music, distant conversations, but our small circle, Vanessa, Sophie, me, and now my mother approaching, was in absolute silence. What does Sophie mean by he doesn't exist? My mother asked, looking between us. Vanessa, where is Ethan? He's coming, Mom, Vanessa said, but her voice was trembling. He's just late. How long has he been late? My father appeared, his face showing concern. Vanessa, it's almost 9 o'clock. The party started at 7. He had a work emergency. You know how it is. He works in finance. You know how it is. Sometimes there are. Which company does he work for exactly? Sophie asked, her phone still in hand. Because I called all the major finance companies in Seattle. None of them have an Ethan Mitchell on record. You called? Vanessa looked at Sophie with horror. Why would you do that? Because Natalie asked me to, Sophie said calmly. Because she started noticing inconsistencies in your story, and the more I looked, the more inconsistencies I found. What kind of inconsistencies? My mother asked, her voice tightening. Well, Sophie pulled some notes from her phone. Let's start with Vanessa's job. She claims to work for Tech Vision in Seattle, but Tech Vision doesn't have an office in Seattle. They have offices in San Francisco, Austin, and Boston, not Seattle. I work remotely, Vanessa protested. Okay, Sophie nodded. So I called Tech Vision's HR, asked if they had a Vanessa Brooks on payroll. They don't, never have. Vanessa turned pale. They can't give out that information. That's confidential. Actually, they can confirm whether someone works there or not, Sophie corrected. And Vanessa, you don't work there. You never have worked for them. This is ridiculous. Vanessa looked around, seeking support. Mom, Dad, you're not going to believe her, are you? She's clearly jealous because... And the apartment, I interrupted. The luxurious apartment in Seattle that you always post photos of. I did a reverse image search. It's an Airbnb, available for rent for $300 a night. You rent it when you visit Seattle, take photos, and pretend you live there. I sublet, Vanessa said frantically. That's why it's not in my name. Vanessa, my father said, his voice heavy. Stop. Just stop. No, Vanessa was crying now. You don't understand. I was trying to impress you, trying to be someone you could be proud of. By lying? My mother asked, and there was pain in her voice. Vanessa, we were always proud of you. You didn't need to invent a fake life. Yes, I did, Vanessa screamed, because Natalie was always the perfect daughter, the smart one, the successful one, and I was just me. Ordinary. So I created a better version, a version you could be proud of. And there it was, the wound that had created the monster. Vanessa wasn't evil, she was insecure, so desperate for validation that she had constructed an entire false persona. But Vanessa, I said softly, you destroyed my wedding. You lied to Michael, made him have doubts, sabotaged the most important thing in my life. Why? Because you didn't deserve to be happy when I was miserable, Vanessa cried out, and the raw honesty in her voice silenced everyone. You had everything, a real job, a real fiancé, a real life, and I had lies. So yes, I destroyed your wedding, because if I couldn't be happy, why should you be? The silence that followed was absolute. Even the background music seemed to have stopped. My God, my mother whispered. Vanessa, what have you become? Someone desperate. Vanessa collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Someone so desperate for attention that she invented an entire life. And now everyone knows. Everyone knows I'm a fraud. Jason appeared at my side, his hand finding mine. Do you want me to go? He whispered. No, I held his hand. Stay, please. My father approached Vanessa. Where are you really living, if not in Seattle? Here, Vanessa admitted, her voice small. I never left New York. I'm living in Aunt Susan's basement apartment. She lets me stay for free. And the job? I work at a coffee shop, Vanessa wiped her face, in Brooklyn. I'm a barista. It's not glamorous, it's not impressive, it's just a job. And Ethan? My mother asked. The fiancé we're all here to meet? He doesn't exist, Vanessa said, and it was as if admitting this broke her. He never did. I made him up, because you were all so excited about Natalie's wedding, and I had no one. So I created someone perfect, someone who would love me the way I wanted to be loved. For 2 years? Sophie asked. You kept up that lie for 2 years? It was easy, Vanessa said bitterly, because no one questioned. You all wanted so badly to believe I had found my happy ending that you never asked for proof. Never asked him. You just believed. Because you're our daughter, my mother said. Why would we doubt you? Because I'm a liar, Vanessa said simply. Always have been, since childhood. Little lies in school about having friends I didn't have, bigger lies in college about internships I didn't get. And then the lies became my reality. I believed them. Or at least, I pretended so well that I forgot they weren't real. My father sat down heavily. How do we fix this? You don't fix it, Vanessa said. I fix it, if I can. But first, she looked at me. Natalie, I need to apologize, truly, not just for destroying your wedding, but for years of making you feel less, of stealing your moments, of making everything about me. Why did you do that? I asked. Why couldn't you just let me be happy? Because your happiness reminded me of my unhappiness, Vanessa said honestly, and it was easier to destroy your joy than to build my own. Hurt people hurt people. It's not an excuse, but it's an explanation. And sometimes understanding the why helps heal the how. I called Michael, Sophie said suddenly, after Natalie told me her suspicions. I told him what we discovered about Vanessa's lies. And, I managed to ask, he wants to talk to you. Sophie handed me a paper with a number. He said he was an idiot, that he should have trusted you, that he let Vanessa manipulate him because he had his own insecurities. I looked at the number. Part of me wanted to call immediately, but the bigger part knew it wasn't that simple. Michael had abandoned me, had believed lies about me, had ended our relationship, over the phone. I don't know if I can forgive him, I admitted. You don't have to, Jason said softly. Forgiveness isn't mandatory. Even when we understand the why, we are not obligated to forgive the how. I looked at him. This stranger I had hired to play a role, but who had become something more over the weeks of preparation. Someone who saw me, who supported me, who was here, holding my hand, even when his job was technically over. Thank you, I said to him, for doing this, for helping me expose the truth. It was a pleasure, he smiled. And Natalie, if you ever need someone for an actual dinner, my number is real, not like the fictional Ethan. Despite everything, the drama, the pain, the exposed lies, I laughed. I'd love that. The party, obviously, ended, guests leaving quietly, uncomfortable with the family drama. My parents took Vanessa home, promising long conversations and professional help. And I stood there in the nearly empty restaurant with Jason and Sophie, feeling light. For the first time in months, light. You did the right thing, Sophie said, exposing her, even though it was hard. I know, I replied. But Sophie, I don't feel vengeful. I just feel sad. For Vanessa. For all the time she wasted living a lie. Sadness is allowed, Jason said. You can be right and still feel compassion. Both things can coexist. He was right. And as we left the restaurant, the cold New York air hitting me, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of truth, of healing, of rebuilding. For me, and maybe eventually for Vanessa too. 3 days after the party, my mother called me. Her voice was tired, older somehow. Natalie, can you come over to the house? We need to talk, all of us. I arrived at my parents' house in Westchester that afternoon. The house where I grew up, full of memories, some good, many complicated by years of competition with Vanessa. Vanessa was in the living room. She looked smaller. No makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, wearing sweatpants. None of the polished, perfect Vanessa she always projected. Hi, she said when she saw me. Not Nat or little sister or any of the fake nicknames she used to use. Just hi. Hi, I replied, sitting in the chair farthest from her. My father cleared his throat. Natalie, thank you for coming. Your mother and I, have spent the last few days talking to Vanessa, trying to understand, and there are things you need to know. Like what? Vanessa has been in therapy, my mother said. Not the fake therapy she claimed to be doing, real therapy. Since yesterday. And the therapist, he diagnosed her with histrionic personality disorder. What is that? I asked, though I already had an idea. It's a disorder where a person has an excessive need for attention, Vanessa said, her voice monotone. Where I create drama to be the center of attention. Where I can't distinguish between positive and negative attention. I just need to be noticed. That doesn't excuse what you did, I said firmly. I know. Vanessa looked at me, and for the first time, I saw real honesty in her eyes. It doesn't excuse anything, but it explains. Natalie, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I'm asking for understanding. That you understand I was sick. That I'm still sick. And that I'm trying to get better. For how long? I asked. How long have you been lying? Always, Vanessa admitted. As long as I can remember. Little lies in school about having friends I didn't have. Bigger lies in college about internships I didn't get. And then the lies became my reality. I believed them. Or at least I pretended so well that I forgot they weren't real. There's a fine line between lying to others and lying to yourself. And Vanessa had crossed that line so long ago that she no longer knew where it was. And my wedding? My voice was harsh. You destroyed my wedding. That was cruel, Vanessa. Not just sick, cruel. It was, she agreed, tears streaming. And Natalie, I have no excuse. I saw you happy, and I couldn't bear it, because I was so miserable. Living in a basement, working in a coffee shop, pretending to have a life I would never have. And you had everything real. So I destroyed it, because if I couldn't have it, you shouldn't have it either. That's sick. I know, Vanessa sobbed. I know, and I'm so sorry. I'm sorry in a way words cannot express. I destroyed the most important thing in your life because I was jealous. And there's nothing I can say or do that will fix that. You're right, I said. There isn't. Vanessa, you didn't just destroy my wedding. You destroyed my trust. In you, in the family, in myself. Because for weeks, I wondered if Michael was right, if I was the problem, if I was rushing things. You weren't, Vanessa said desperately. Michael loved you. He really loved you. I saw it, and I used it against you. I planted doubts where there were none. And he let those doubts grow because he had his own insecurities. About what? I asked. About being good enough for you, Vanessa wiped her face. Michael told me once, when I was advising him, that he always felt you were out of his league, that you were too smart, too successful, too everything. And I used that. I made him believe his insecurities were valid, that you were settling, that he should let you go for your own good. Anger burned in my chest. You manipulated his insecurities. Yes, Vanessa said simply. And it was easy, too easy, because Michael wanted to believe. Some part of him wanted an excuse to run away before you realized he wasn't perfect. He was perfect for me. My voice broke. Imperfections and all. I loved him. And you took that from me. I know, Vanessa whispered. And if I could go back in time, I wouldn't. But I can't. All I can do is try to be better. Try not to be that person anymore. My father spoke. Natalie, we failed you. And Vanessa. We saw the signs, the constant need for attention, the stories that didn't add up, and we ignored them because it was easier to believe Vanessa was just dramatic than to admit she needed help. And you, my mother looked at me, tears in her eyes, we failed you by not believing you when you tried to tell us, by always choosing Vanessa's side, by making you feel like you were the problem. I was always the problem, I said bitterly. In your narrative, Vanessa was the sensitive one who needed protection, and I was the tough one who needed to be more understanding. You were right, my mother admitted, about everything. And we are so, so sorry. Sorry doesn't bring back my wedding, I said, but there was less anger in my voice, more exhaustion. No, my father agreed, but maybe we can start to repair the damage, as a family, if you want to. I don't know if I want to, I admitted. I don't know if I can trust you again, any of you. That's fair, Vanessa said. And Natalie, I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I'm going to do the work. Real therapy, medication if necessary. I'm going to stop lying. I'm going to get a real job, admit where I really live, stop pretending to be someone I'm not. Why? I asked. Why now? Because you were exposed? Because I saw myself, Vanessa said. At the party, when everything fell apart. I saw what I had become. And Natalie, I hated myself. I hated the pathetic liar who had destroyed her sister out of jealousy. And I don't want to be that person anymore. Change rarely comes from wanting to be better. It comes from no longer being able to live with yourself. And maybe, just maybe, Vanessa had finally reached that point. Michael called, I said suddenly. Will you? My mother asked. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to hear what he has to say, wants to understand why he let Vanessa manipulate him. But the bigger part isn't sure if it cares. Because Michael made a choice. He chose doubt over trust. He chose to leave instead of fight. What if he wants to fight now? Vanessa asked softly. Then it's too late, I said, and realized it was true. Because I don't want someone who fights for me only after losing. I want someone who fights before, who chooses to trust, who doesn't let doubts planted by third parties destroy what we've built. Like Jason, Sophie had appeared. My mother had invited her to. The guy you hired to play Ethan. He's not Ethan, I smiled, despite everything. He's Jason. And yes, we have a real date scheduled for tomorrow. You're dating the actor you hired to destroy your sister's empire of lies? That's poetically perfect, isn't it? I laughed, and it was liberating. But Sophie, it's not about destroying Vanessa. It never was. It was about truth, about finally making everyone see what I had seen for years. And now that they see, my father asked, what happens now? Now? I looked around, at my parents, at Vanessa, at Sophie. Now we decide if we can rebuild, if there's anything to save, or if it's better for each of us to go our separate ways. I want to rebuild, Vanessa said, but I understand if you don't want to. I understand if you never want to see me again. I don't know what I want yet, I said honestly. But Vanessa, if we're going to have any chance of a future relationship, it has to be based on truth, real truth. No more lies, no more drama, just honesty. I can do that, Vanessa promised. I will do that. We'll see, I said. Time will tell. 6 months after the disastrous engagement party, my life had found a new balance. Not perfect, but real. And real, I had learned, was infinitely better than perfect. Vanessa was keeping her promises. She had moved out of Aunt Susan's basement into a small apartment in Queens. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. She still worked at the coffee shop, but had been promoted to manager. And she was in therapy 3 times a week, working through years of destructive behavior. Today, I almost lied, she told me on one of our monthly calls, something we had started as a way to slowly rebuild. A client asked what I did besides the coffee shop, and my first instinct was to invent something impressive. But I stopped. I breathed, and I told the truth, that I work at the coffee shop, and I'm okay with that. How did you feel? Vulnerable, she admitted, but also relieved? Like I didn't have to keep up a performance anymore. I could just be me. That's huge, Vanessa. I know, she sighed. Nat, I know we still have a long way to go, that you still don't completely trust me, but I want you to know I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying to be the sister you deserve. I see that, I said honestly. But Vanessa, you need to do this for you, not for me. Because if you're only changing to win back my trust, you'll relapse when things get hard. My therapist said the same thing, Vanessa laughed, that I need to learn to value myself without external validation. It's hard, but I'm working on it. My relationship with my parents was also healing, slowly. They had started their own family therapy, working through years of dysfunctional dynamics. We favored Vanessa, my father admitted during one of our monthly dinners. Not intentionally, but because she was louder, more needy, and you were independent, so we assumed you didn't need as much support. I did, I said softly, just not in the same way. I needed to be believed, to be seen, to be validated when I told the truth. And we failed at that. My mother held my hand. Natalie, there's no excuse, but we are trying to do better now. I know. I squeezed her hand. And I appreciate that. Michael had tried to contact me several times, calls, texts, even showing up at my apartment once, but I wasn't ready. Maybe I never would be. He says he made a mistake, Sophie told me, that he let his own insecurities destroy something good, that he's very sorry. I'm sorry too, I replied. I'm sorry that he wasn't strong enough, that he let doubts planted by Vanessa destroy 3 years of our relationship. But Sophie, I can't go back to someone who didn't fight for me when it mattered. And Jason? Sophie smiled. How are things with the fake Ethan who became a real boyfriend? Good, I smiled, and it was genuine. Really good. Jason he's different. He sees me, not Vanessa's sister, not the jilted fiancé, just me. And he fights. When there are problems, he stays. He talks. He doesn't run away. Jason and I had started slowly. Dinners, walks through Central Park, long conversations about everything and nothing. He still acted, mostly off-Broadway theater, and I still worked in marketing. Normal lives. Real. No manufactured drama. You know what's funny? Jason said one night as we cooked together in my apartment. I was hired to play a fake boyfriend, and I ended up becoming a real boyfriend. That's like a romantic comedy. Except the origin story is destroying my sister's empire of lies, I laughed. Not exactly Hollywood material. I don't know. He pulled me close. I think it's a great story. Woman hires actor to expose lying sister. Actor and woman fall in love for real. Lies are exposed. Truth prevails. Happy ending. Are we at the happy ending? I asked. We're at the happy beginning, he corrected. The rest is still to come. He was right. And for the first time in years, I was excited about the future. Not nervous, not apprehensive, just excited. Sophie had become even more my rock. She had been there every step of the way, believing me when no one else did, helping me expose Vanessa, supporting me as I rebuilt. You saved my life, I told her on a girls' night out. You saved your own life, she corrected. I was just there to witness it. Nat, you were brave. You risked everything to expose the truth. That's amazing. Or crazy, I laughed. Sometimes the line between the two is very thin, Sophie smiled. But Nat, look where you are now. You have an amazing boyfriend. Your family is finally seeing clearly. Vanessa is getting help. You did it. You forced the truth to come out. Truth is uncomfortable. Truth destroys comfortable illusions. But truth also liberates. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is refuse to participate in lies, even when it hurts people you love. A year after the party, Vanessa invited me to dinner, at her apartment. She cooked. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad. But it was real. She was real. I have something to show you, she said after dinner, leading me to her small bedroom. On the wall, there were photos, real photos, of her at the coffee shop, of her with coworkers, of her in her modest apartment. No lies, no fantasy, just real life. I used to have photos of a life that wasn't mine, she said softly. Now I have photos of the life that is. And you know what? It's better. It's not impressive. It won't make anyone envy me, but it's mine, truly mine. I'm proud of you, I said, and I meant it. Truly, Vanessa. You did the work. You changed. I still have bad days, she admitted. Days when I want to lie, days when I want to create drama. But now I recognize the impulses, and I choose differently. That's all we can ask, I said, to recognize and choose differently. Nat? Vanessa looked at me. Do you think one day, you can forgive me? Completely? I don't know, I admitted honestly. Forgiveness is a process, not an event. But Vanessa, I'm on the path, and that has to be enough for now. It's enough, she hugged me. More than enough. On the second anniversary of the day I was supposed to marry Michael, Jason took me to dinner. Nothing fancy, just our favorite Italian restaurant in the West Village. Are you thinking about him? Jason asked gently. About Michael? A little, I admitted. Not with regret, just curiosity about how things could have been different. They couldn't, Jason said, because if you had married Michael, you wouldn't be here with me. And selfishly, I'm grateful that things happened the way they did. Even if it started with you being hired to pretend to be my sister's fictional boyfriend, I laughed. Especially because of that, he smiled, because that brought me to you, the bravest, most honest, and most incredible woman I know. I love you, I said, and it was easy, natural, real. I love you too, he said. And Natalie, I'm not going anywhere. Not when things get tough, not when there are doubts. I stay. I fight. I choose you, always. And he did. When my grandmother passed away 6 months later and I broke down, Jason was there. When I got a huge promotion at work, Jason celebrated with me. When I had an anxiety relapse about trusting people, Jason was patient. He stayed, he fought, he chose. 2 years after the party, Jason proposed to me. Nothing elaborate, just the two of us, in our apartment we had moved in together 6 months earlier, with our rescued cat purring between us. I want to spend my life with you, he said, not because you're perfect, but because you're real, because you fight for the truth even when it's hard, because you make me want to be better. Will you marry me? Yes, I said, laughing and crying. 1,000 times yes. The wedding was small, intimate, real. Sophie was my maid of honor. Vanessa was there, not as part of the bridal party, but as a guest, as a sister, as someone who had done the work and earned the right to be present. My parents cried, tears of joy this time. And when Jason and I exchanged vows, when we promised truth and honesty and choice, I knew this was real. This was right. This was what love should be. Lies can build empires, but only truth can build foundations. And foundations, though less glamorous than empires, last. They survive storms. They withstand time. They are real. Years later, when people ask me if I regret how I exposed Vanessa, my answer is always the same. No, because exposing lies is not cruelty. It's compassion. It's refusing to participate in illusions that hurt everyone involved. It's saying, I love you enough to force you to face reality. Vanessa needed to be exposed, not to be humiliated, but to be liberated. Liberated from the prison of lies she had built for herself. And me? I needed to stop being an accomplice, stop minimizing my pain to accommodate her drama, stop accepting crumbs of family relationship while Vanessa received the entire feast. Sometimes the most loving act is to destroy illusions, even when it hurts, even when it seems cruel. Because in the end, truth heals. It may not heal quickly or easily or completely, but it heals. And that, I learned, is worth any temporary discomfort. This story teaches us that lies, no matter how well constructed, eventually crumble. That families can be complicit in illusions when they choose comfort over truth. That attention, even negative, can become an addiction for those who never learn to value themselves without external validation. But it also teaches us that exposure can be healing. That sometimes forcing someone to face their lies is the most loving act possible. That you are not cruel for refusing to participate in fantasies that hurt everyone involved.
If you have someone in your life who lives by lies, no, you are not obligated to be an accomplice. You are not obligated to protect their illusions. And you are not the villain for choosing truth over comfort. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Leave in the comments, have you ever had to expose lies of someone close to you? How did you deal with it? Remember, you deserve relationships based on truth, not fantasies. And you, what do you value more? Comfortable illusions or uncomfortable truths that liberate?